It's time for Geocache Talk. Whether you are at work, in the car, or wherever you are, we hope you enjoy this show about the great sport of geocaching. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can be part of the adventure tonight in the chat room and participate with others as they watch the show. If you are listening later, please give it a like and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app so that you can get all of the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. If you have not become a patron of the Geocache Talk Network, what are you waiting for? Patron levels start as low as a Bison Tube level at $3 a month. To sign up is easy. Simply go to the Geocache Talk website and click on the Become a Patron button, or go to patreon.com/Geocache Talk. Patrons now get the famous Blackout coin, invites to special events, and other really great items throughout the year. Become a patron today. Have you subscribed to FTF Magazine yet? FTF Magazine is the #1 geocaching magazine available. It is a quarterly magazine that you can be part of. Submit your geocaching milestones and adventures to be published. FTF Magazine is also interactive with puzzles to solve and the hunt to find Spartacus. If you can solve the puzzle or find Spartacus, then you will be entered in to win a special pack tag. Every new subscription, you will receive a special swag pack. Subscribing is easy. Just visit FTF's website, ftfgeo.com. Don't miss out and subscribe today.
Big thanks to Derek of Baker Six Clan and our featured patrons, Swifty Golden, the Pizza Ninja, DMN Rec, TKD Scouter, Tax Pro RGV, Kazoo Otters, Homer CF, Roomba Cats, Stark AZ, MP Dreyer, and our new patrons, La Favorite Casher, and a returning patron, Padib. Welcome back. Padib is in Germany. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, nice to have
somebody back on the team.
Yep, very nice. One quick comment about patrons. You know, I always mention featured patrons and returning patrons, or featured patrons and new patrons. One thing I do want to mention, because I think people maybe to have a misconception as to that we just keep growing and growing and growing, and you know, we're just keep growing and patrons are coming out the ears and everything. It's like, just a quick update. We're down like 20 patrons.
Yeah, it's up and down. People are able to give
up and down.
We can't others. We get that. We totally get that. So
yeah,
I see what you're saying. Like, it sounds like it's new people all the time, but it's kind of up and down.
Yeah, so maybe that's a misconception for people who are like, oh, I don't want to give because they got so many people. It's like, no, we're actually down. So if you're keep
the lights going, and or not the lights, I guess, but all the online platforms we have to do.
Yeah, it helps pay the bills, and it really helps. If you're able, even something as small as $3 a month makes a huge difference for us being able to do everything we do. Yeah. So,
all right, very grateful we've been able to do this for this long.
Oh, absolutely. Coming up in June will be our 7th. We'll be on 7th year. So, our 7th year anniversary coming up. So, all right, let's jump into some items because we got a lot to cover tonight. So let's do a little bit. So, a couple things I wanted to point out in the news, and Jesse will, obviously, jump in and comment as we go. We do have another clue tonight for key 24. We'll do that a little later. We have, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read the reworded comment about premium changes. Yeah. So let me read that, and then we'll talk about what happened. And there's everything's in the show notes too, in case if you want to check these out later. Geocaching HQ president, co-founder Brian Roth. They discussed in a previous HQ podcast about the upcoming price changes for new geocaching premium subscribers. On June 6th, 2023, we will increase the prices of premium membership for new subscribers to $39.99 US dollars per year, or if you want to do monthly, it's $6.99 US dollars per month. It's currently $5.99 US dollars per month, which I did not realize because I never thought about the fact that you could purchase
1 month
premium,
of it,
premium membership. Well, you can, and you literally could buy, you wouldn't never want to do this, but if you wanted to buy, well, you might want to buy 3
people
months.
That haven't decided to commit to it yet. They want to try it for a couple months and see if they're going to keep doing it. Like most hobbies out there that you try, you're like, okay, this was neat for about 3 weeks and now I'm done with it.
Yeah. It's a good option.
They have a monthly one, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like students that only get to do it during the summertime. So they just buy 2 months during the summer and that's all they can do. So there's a lot of reasons why people might do that, but
right.
And why are we talking about this, Gary?
We're talking about it because, a couple of reasons, I guess.
One, it's important news for our game.
One's important. Two, the price has gone up, which is fine. You and I would both agree that 39,
So yeah, forget all the 99 cents. It went from $30 to $40 a year, right?
Yeah.
After 20 something years.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
What stays the same price for 22 years?
Yes.
It's not milk. It's not gas.
No. It's well worth it. Yeah. But notice how I said or, and there was they did not word it.
See, I disagree. It made perfect sense to me because I
did to me too.
And people lost their mind.
They did.
Like, these are people that solve like complex puzzles as a hobby all the time. And they made the logical leap that it's now like, and I saw things online like it's $200 a year now.
Yeah.
What? First of all, we've had them on the show several times. People from HQ, Brian and all them, we've had them all on the show.
Yeah.
And they've always said they're trying to make everything available to everybody. I would have jacked that joker up to like $300 a year 10 years ago. I told them that. They're trying to keep it available to everybody. And what in their history ever has made them think that they would jack it up to $200 a month or $200 a year for like from $30 a year for 22?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Now, no. It's
what you can't even get more. 4 bell peppers at the store cost you $40.
Yeah.
$40 for a whole year of come on now.
Yeah.
I understand everybody has different budgets, right? But I guarantee you spent more than $40 in the last year geocaching.
Right.
You can't even fill up your car and then gas for $40.
Yeah.
So, I didn't really hear anybody complaining about $40. It was the weird thing where people were like speculating. Well, and means this and that, and it's going to be this. Like, I heard somebody say that it was going to be $40 and then the price of per month also.
Yeah. And then on top of that. Yes.
Like, no.
Come on.
I guess they think Signal needs a Mercedes-Benz now or something to ride around in. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah. No.
$40 is reasonable. It was that people started spinning up off of each other. Like they were doing like some weird math and like $40 a month. I'm like, no, you didn't even read the thing.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No.
But yeah. So they went up by $10 a year. So just if you're a yearly member and you start after, it wouldn't even affect anybody that's listening now unless they're not a premium member.
Right.
Basically become just join before June 6th, right? And then you're locked into the other prices forever. They always grandfather people into everything. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to spend a lot of time on this. It was just so wild that people were like, it's one of those things you watch happening. It's like a slow train wreck. And you see people like getting crazier and crazier. And in fairness, most geocachers that I saw and I try to stay out of that stuff, but they were like, dude, guys, y'all are getting spun out. That's not what they're saying. I don't care if it says and in there. That's not what they're saying. So,
yeah,
absolutely. They're so cheap. He said he's going to give one away during Podcast of Hope, which thank you, by the way, for that.
He does.
We appreciate that. But, we just wanted to make sure that everybody understood in case people heard this weird stuff. It's just a $10 a year increase for new players that haven't gone.
Yeah. Doesn't even go up. It doesn't go up for us that are, if you become a premium member today up until June. What was the date? Let me make sure I get this right. So I don't mess it up. June 6th. On June 6th, it goes up. So if by June 5th, by June 5th, if you become a premium member, you are locked in to the current price
for life.
Yeah, I mean, just keep. Yeah, and if you happen to miss,
as long as you're in the game, you might as well. Anyway, $30. If you might geocache this year, it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean,
and again,
nothing.
This is not a commentary on, because every part of the world has different like rates for money and different access to funds and everything else. It's not a commentary on that at all. We just want to comment on people getting spun up and thinking it was like $40 a month plus all this other stop. That is nothing like they've ever done before.
Insanity.
So it was insanity. So we had to jump on and talk about that real quick. But
had to.
We couldn't go by without doing that. So let's get on to the real stuff.
Absolutely. Let's get on to the topic at hand. So this topic is multifaceted and could be done. We could do this topic for a year probably and never cover it all. So we're not going to cover it all, but we want to cover some items about geocaching on vacation.
Right. Some different styles. We're going to compare and contrast a couple of trips.
Yeah. We're going to take a couple trips and we're going to talk about them. I asked our buddy in the AI world about it, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I want to point out one little thing that our Chat GC told us. Yeah, it's really good to have somebody on the inside in the artificial intelligence world. I mean, they're in the machine, so it's really good to have a geocaching comrade in there. So that's really, really nice. So ChatGC says, before you go on vacation, you can check the geocaching app or website to see if there are any caches near your destination. You can then plan your geocaching adventures around your vacation itinerary and make it a fun activity for you and your travel companions. One of the things that we wanted to point out, I think, is that there would be a whole show, and we'll do it someday, but there's a whole show that could be built around geocaching with muggles or geocaching with muggles on vacation. I mean, that's a whole
different thing that we're talking about tonight.
It's the whole story. So we're not going to do that. I'm sorry if that's something you were tuned in to really hear about. We're not doing that tonight.
We've touched on that before.
We have.
And again, there's like 50 versions of geocaching trips, right?
Yeah.
Geocaching with muggles on a vacation trip.
Yeah.
That's a whole separate deal. We're gonna do two other types, which we've all done probably, or maybe not. People may not have ever gone on a geocaching trip, but or to the extent that we're talking about. But it's the interesting thing tonight too is you just went on a trip. I've got a trip coming up, and even though they're both exclusively geocaching trips, they're completely different in how you plan for them.
Right.
And the outcome and everything else, all of it's very different.
Yeah. Chronically Tired Mom points out that, it's not for the faint of heart.
I just converted everybody I know into geocachers, and I never had to be around muggles. It works out.
Never have to be around it. There you go. Perfect. I guess I'll start, and I'll let Jesse, you comment on mine, and then I'll let you go, and then I'll comment on yours. So
we'll contrast the two, compare and contrast.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So a couple things I wanted to point out. I'm going to talk about a little bit of my plan that I just got back. So it's obviously fresh on my mind, and I can give some good examples of what I already did. Mine's post trip. Yours is pre-trip. This next one. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. So we're definitely have some really good contrasts and comparisons going on. And so there's some similarities, some differences. So I think that's really good for this. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that your plan for your vacation needs to be your plan. I have heard of people who they basically just sort of tell me what I'm going to go to this area. You tell me what you think. And they kind of just do whatever people tell them to do. And like at the end, they're like, oh, that was not any good. I didn't like it. It's like, well, you need to figure out your own plan. Yeah. Now there's a caveat to that, which is it's good to get advice. But in the long run, you're
skipping ahead though. Before you get too far down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Maybe describe the trip that you just went on. It was a solo trip. True. Give them a rough idea of what you're talking about before you get too far down there.
Okay.
I don't think you've mentioned what kind of trip it was yet.
No, that's good. You're right. It's a good it's a good point. So
because it's extremely different, right? A solo trip is extremely different than what I'll be talking about, which is a group trip.
Yeah. Yeah. So mine was a solo trip. It was 10 days. I don't know how long is your trip going to be, you think?
Ours is going to be short. Ours is going to be 4 to 5 days max.
Okay. So there's a difference right there.
Including travel time stuff.
Right. Now your travel by car or is Barry flying down?
We'll get into that later because mine's complicated. So
okay, yours complicated.
Yeah, let's get yours first. Yeah.
Yeah. So
because you had a lot of travel.
Yeah. So I flew from Dallas up to Seattle, and but I had certain goals, and I had mapped out in a spreadsheet the things I wanted to do, and I like planning. Not every second of a trip, but I like planning a trip, and the reason that I want to point out is that if you make a detailed plan, in my opinion, then you're able to make changes to it if you want to make changes to it.
Right.
The reason I want to point that out is because we both know people who do the opposite. Like, I'm going on this vacation and I got no plans. I'm going to blow with the wind and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I'm not going to care about, I'm not going to have a care in the world.
And that's okay for some people.
It is.
Yeah.
I think though, for me though, I think what would have happened was I would have gotten back home and I'd have gone, oh, I could have done this, or I could have done that. Right. Or, and at the end of it, you're like, oh, I should have planned better, because there's so many things that I could have done if I would have just taken some time and thought through it.
But now, would you say that this trip was primarily a geocaching trip, or was this a vacation that you geocached on? What was number one, the vacation part or the geocaching part? Would you have done this trip without geocaching?
No.
Okay. So geocaching was higher up than just seeing cool stuff. Although obviously you want to see cool stuff when you go to a new area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I think it was,
you're the only one, and geocaching is at the top. So that really defines kind of what the trip is like.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
Now, part of it though, I think is very balanced. I think I had a very balanced approach to the trip, because I had some very specific goals for my geocaching. Now, I didn't geocache as much as probably most people would think you're going to geocache when you go to the glorious Pacific Northwest, because I had them balanced. I wanted to do some other things in the area that, of course, take time. I mean, if you're going to do. And so I'm going to give you some examples, and I won't go to great detail, but one of them was I wanted to go to Multnomah Falls. I want to see the waterfall there. Now, while there's earth caches, there's virtuals. I mean, there's
But you went to the site and added geocaches onto it.
I did, and that particular item, the importance was going to see the waterfall. Right. And to get great photos of it and do the making that was the priority. Other parts of the trip though, it was the opposite. The priority was, for example, the original stash.
Yeah.
So the original stash was the priority for that day. Right. if something else came about, I found Slider, which is close to there, so that you could see that, so there's these tertiary or secondary things that happened.
Yeah.
But I had a goal, and my goal, for these particular items, my priority was Multnomah Falls. I also that day was able to find other caches, or other waterfalls. I'm sorry, other waterfalls and other caches, but that wasn't the priority. Priority was waterfalls. So
right,
I wanted to see several of these, because there's a whole. If you drive from Portland to Hood River, Oregon, you can stop multiple times and see really cool waterfalls. Multnomah, of course, the big giant one. So anyway, but that day started with another priority for me, which was I'm really getting into coffee. And so that was one of the stops that I had for this trip. I had multiple coffee places that I wanted to hit. So that was another priority. Yeah. So anyway,
but I think it's interesting too, because like we've talked about, and I know we went on a family vacation to Hawaii.
Right.
Now, there's no chance that I was going to leave there without doing some geocaching. Right. But that was not the goal of that trip.
Right.
We went for the vacation, and then obviously you're going to find some cache while you're there. That's not the kind of vacation. That's not the kind of geocaching vacation we're talking about today. We're talking about both of our vacations are spurned on by geocaching. Now, yours is balanced.
I tried to balance.
What I'm going to talk about when we talk about mine is I'm only going for geocaching.
Right.
I am not going to see the sites. Now, obviously, when you travel, there's beautiful sites everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to Georgia, so it'll be nice, whatever. But I'm planning around geocaching. If we see cool stuff along the way, that's great.
That's cool.
You're balancing cool stuff you want to see with geocaching. Both probably you would have gone without geocaching, but you want to see some others. You probably wouldn't have flown out there just to see the coffee places. But you're doing a good balance of both. So that's two completely different kinds of trips.
Yeah. Very, very different. And HQ was also high on my list of things that I had never done. These are I wanted to tick a bunch of boxes that for me personally were things I wanted these boxes ticked off the list. And so I wanted to HQ, I wanted original stash, I wanted to go do a bunch of bounce caches, and I'm going to show a couple pictures in a minute. I'm not going to bore people with a lot of home movies, but I do want to show some because I want to explain a little bit more about that. But I wanted to go. I've never been to Canada, so that was another high item on my list that I planned for. But I'll get into this. So let me show, because I want to get to yours. So let me add this in. So something I wanted to point out, and when you're making your own plans, and that is to be a little bit flexible on, if you have a plan, in my opinion, you're able to be more flexible and you still meet your goals that you set.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's better than trying to plan on the fly and missing everything.
Exactly. So this is one of Bounce's caches. And we just happened to be there with Chad, so we're able to take pictures. Normally you don't get these pictures because this is you don't get access to that.
And somebody's already spotted somebody in the picture with you.
Yeah, there's Chris of the Northwest.
It is Chris of the Northwest. That's correct.
So awesome to hang out with Chris. Again, that's part of being flexible in that. For Chris is that when we went to an event and got to see a bunch of listeners and patrons, it was good to see. Seabeck Tribe was there, so Lori was able, and I was able to give her her prize that she won a few weeks ago.
Very cool.
But so we went to this local chocolate place. Was really good, by the way. It was, but Chris came along too, and we asked him. We were like, Chris, the Kraken.
I saw that. That's why.
Yeah, Stephanie wearing her Kraken shirt. But we asked Chris. We're like, hey, are you available? He's like, yeah, I'm free. I was like, well, come with us. We're going to do a bunch of Chad's caches. And so we were able to hang out, and Chris was able to hang out with us and do several geocaches. So that was a lot of fun. So
but
here's
the reason
another
why
one
you were able to do that though was because you knew you're still going to hit your goals, and you had some time, extra time built in to be flexible.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. So this is another one of Chad's. This is the 100-foot.
Yeah.
The big chain thing you got to pull and pull and pull and pull until you get to the cache. So just
you're
a
not
good
pulling
example.
anything. There's 1,000 million hits on that video. So
yeah.
people have seen it already.
So I went to Chad's. I got to go to Chad's work area, his office, or you want to call it his, and some of the stuff. And yeah, so I got to wear the Mandalorian helmet and hold baby Grogu, baby Grogu. So Din Grogu. So there you go. So
that is insane that he's building those things.
Yeah. So so there's me with the giant one. So that's really cool. And got to see the Fremont Troll.
Yeah.
So, things I'd planned to do that. I was near headquarters. So, and there's one of the places I stayed. I got to take, I great photos. So there you go. So that's a good example of.
So did you hit, I guess the question then is, did you hit your goals?
Yes.
Was there any you weren't able to do?
I don't think so. People suggested several things, which I took into advisement, but did not decide that I wanted to do this time around because of planning. Ape Cache is something I want to do someday. The gates are still closed, so you got to go around, which is fine. I'm really not in the shape to do the whole. There's a way to get to it,
a long trek.
It's a little more rocky, a little more tricky than just walking through the tunnel.
Right.
They open the tunnel when the weather changes and stuff. So anyway, so that's an example of working the plan that I had because I was able to go to Canada. Oh, one last thing, and then we'll flip around and get some of yours in there. Which was when I was at the event, Brad had one of our listeners showed up and said that is your dog?
Yeah, let me.
Go ahead. I'll
let you do that. I'll tend to the dog real quick.
Yeah, go ahead do that. I'll talk about this. You go ahead and take care of our good fine puppy dog. What I did was, again, because I had a plan and I was able to sort of make changes if I needed to, because I had the plan already in place, was Brad suggested, goes, hey, I've got a geocache up near in the Abbotsford area, and since you're going to be up that way, then maybe you want to pop by and check out this geocache, and which I did. It was really cool. It's a TARDIS. I forgot to show you the photo of that, but anyway, very clever. It's very unique. It's very different than a lot of the ones that I have heard of. I really enjoyed, and it was suggested to me by Brad, and so I was like, oh, I can alter in a sense what I'm doing because I've got a plan, and I know how to, in a sense, deviate from the plan, but yet not deviate from the plan. I was able to augment the plan because I had it already in place. And so because of the fact that I had the plan, I was able to augment it without completely ruining, what so I went to his cache. It is amazing. I was telling Jesse before the show, it's like I got in there and I was like, I'm not sure what to do to get it because there's a lock. It's like, I'm not sure how to get this. So, after some time, and that was the adventure of it, is really cool. It's like, oh, okay, I think I got it. I think I figured out how to do this cache. And so, sure enough, I was able to figure the puzzle out, which I'm not necessarily the greatest at figuring stuff out. Sometimes puzzles, and and so I got it. I got the door open. I was like, yes.
I'm jealous. I want to do that one so bad.
Yes.
It was featured. It was Geocache of the Week, and it was on FTF too, right? It was
I think so.
Of one of the FTF magazines.
That might have been a different.
It may have been. I just want to do one of the TARDIS caches with a full size cache like that.
It's really cool. It really is, and it's
actually I want to own one of those, but
I know. Yeah. So anyway, so to kind of wrap up my section of this is that I worked the plan like you said. I did ask some people what they thought, and have a friend here back in town, and he's like, oh, I was up there and I did this and this, and I was like, I can't do that or that. I'm not I'm not in shape to do 6 mile trek up the mountain to sounds great, but I've got to be realistic right now. And
right.
But I was able to, I think you suggested, make sure you do an event. And so I'm like, yes, that's a great suggestion. And so doing an event was really cool. Got to see folks, and I have the GC code. Yeah, Amber wants to know. I can do that. So while I'm getting the GC code, it's also in the show notes. But while I'm grabbing that, let's switch gears and talk about. You've got a trip coming up, and what is your plan?
Yeah, and so this is where it's extremely different, right? And that's why I was asking you about your goals for your plan, just starting there and working backwards.
Yep.
So you went on a solo trip. Yours was a balanced trip between geocaching and seeing other sites that you really want to see.
Exactly.
So it's a little different when you have one person. Generally you have an idea of what you want to do, and you're going to try to hit all those goals. Well, when you have 3 people, so I'm going on a trip, it's me and 2 other people. And once a year, we go on one of these geocaching trips, right? And every year, when it's coming time again, we meet and we talk about. Well, now we're spread across the country. We're going to meet up, but we meet and we talk about all right, it's time for our trip this year. What do we want to do for our trip? And we start throwing out a bunch of ideas, right? Like some years we want to get a bunch of caches, and that's our only goal. And we'll go hit some kind of crazy saturated area and hit a bunch of caches. Right. Or some years it's clearing out counties like we did in Utah one time, and it's something different every year. This year when we met, we decided we threw out a bunch of stuff, and this one's dictated because it's going to be during the summertime, so we don't want to be we're not going to Texas, we're not going to the middle of Arizona, in the desert somewhere.
Right.
But
because you guys did one time. Well, I know you and Barry did, but I know there was one where you did like a long road trip.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We've done some long road trips
where this one's not really, this is not a road trip. And, coming to the goal is probably the most important part of, if you've done one before, you've probably run into the negative side effect of doing it if you don't do it. But if you've never done one before where it's specifically, we're not talking about vacation, we're talking about a geocaching vacation where you're specifically going just to geocache. Right.
You have let's say 3, you have people. It's not a couple. I'm not talking about, your significant other, but other people you're meeting.
Yeah.
The most important thing we do every time before we settle on the trip is decide what our goals are for the trip. And all 3 of us have to decide our goals for the trip. And then a break-even line, right? So if I'm wanting to, in this trip, we're going after a bunch of old caches. So for me, that's the number one goal of this trip. And I'll talk about what I'm going to do in just a minute. But my number one goal, like I said, here's what I'm focusing on right now. I want to get these old ones. so they were like, yeah, that's great. I'd love to get those old ones because we're doing similar stuff or whatever. But they may have some other goals that they want to get. Like Bearsaur is a big county guy. He gets counties. He counts count. He's a big county cacher.
Big county guy. Yeah.
He does a little bit of everything, but that's one of the things he does, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, and then the other guy that's going Wahoo is going to. So he's out from Colorado as well. Big Jeeper guy. So he likes to do some more the more high adventure caches,
Sure.
So we wanted to make sure, and then we were building a list, and we've got our list going together. And then we each come up with like a kind of a drop deadline. Like if I get these, no matter what else I get, I consider this a successful geocaching vacation for me.
Exactly.
And each one of us have one of those. And, it may just be if we get 1,000 this time, we're happy. But it may be if we get these specific caches or these, if I wipe out this whole area of counties of the state, finish the state off, I'm happy. So I think that probably the most important thing you can do when you're going on a specific geocaching trip, vacation with other people is all decide what's going to make you happy at the end of the trip. So you can do that and then add everything else on after it, right? So in our version of it, like you plan to have flexible time. We plan to know this is our minimum. Everything else is up for grabs. We can do whatever else, and which we'll do. We'll be driving through, and one of us will be navigating, the others will be doing something else and checking to make sure. Like we found driving through states, we found in a town of like 200 people, we found like FTFs that just happened to get published while we're driving through. Like, we'll go get it.
Lucky.
Because we have the time to be flexible with that because we know what our plan is.
Exactly.
But also we're not sacrificing somebody else's goals for the trip by doing that.
One thing I love about, again, something that I don't think non-geocachers would understand. Well, they might if they have some sort of big hobby, but for those that are listening and watching tonight, this is not a normal, knowing you guys, this is not a normal trip.
No,
so
it's not going to be a normal trip. No.
So for example, there's, you don't have any hotel rooms, right?
No
hotel rooms.
Now, yeah. So
for 5 days or whatever.
Right. So I guess that would be, if I was going to plan one of these trips, and I'll kind of go through what we've done so far, because we do these trips, at least once a year, or once a year we do them. We try to make sure we all get together once a year to do that. So the first thing we do is we decide goals, right? That's important, and know what makes it successful at the end of the trip. And we've never had one that wasn't successful. Now, things come up like you can't get in a road to get in a county. If you can't, you just can't, right? Like it snowed in Utah or something. It just is one of those things you do. But it's not from lack of trying or not from bad planning. Now, the second thing is if you're going to go on a road trip with somebody, a specific geocaching vacation just to go geocaching like we're doing.
Yep.
You got to just kind of decide like what level of insanity you're okay with.
Right.
Exactly. Like, I'm going to go out for 8 hours a day and then I need my own time afterwards to just relax.
Yeah.
Okay. That for some people, that's good. That's perfect. Whatever. We're on the other end of that. Like we don't have any hotels. We're going to sleep in the car. We've slept in graveyards. We've slept in Walmart parking lots.
I love Tom's comment. How many of those pine tree air fresheners are hanging in the car at the end of the trip?
So,
a lot.
We're comfortable sleeping in a car at the same time. It's cold.
Exactly.
You got one seat, I got the other. It is what it is, right? We take showers. Sometimes we'll take showers in the gas station, like in the sink, like go. One other trip, one other thing I've mentioned that we do here, but if it fits, what we generally do, especially if it's 4 or 5 days or more, you don't want to kill each other, right? Like you don't want to murder each other along the road. Mm-hmm. So we'll always stop once a day, usually for dinner, and have a sit down meal where we get out of the car and sit down and eat and kind of just relax for an hour and do our stuff. Yeah. And then it refuels us again because we'll cache way into the night. And, you're only getting 3 or 4 hours a night, asleep a night, and you're going again. We literally will pull off at our last cache and be there and then go again when we're doing one of those number runs. Right. So, this one's different. So we had to plan different for this one. we our goal is we're going to Georgia, and we have to plan. So that the planning on this one is a lot more intricate because there's 6 to 7 year 2000 caches we're going for. Right. Well, these are not just like in a parking lot. Like one of them, we have to rent a boat. So we're going with Captain John, which many people have used for Maroon. Yep. You know, that's a very famous one. I just got a call back from him tonight. In fact, we're trying to get our times booked now. So we got to plan around that. But those 6 caches are all over the state. So we have to cover a lot of area. So that happens to work out that our secondary goal, I guess, is as we're going through, we're going to hit all these counties that we're going to go through. So we're trying to hit as many counties as we can. And, you know, in between of this, there's a lot of counties in between all those 6 caches that cover half the state. Right. So we're swimming through. We're going to go till late in the morning. Oh, yeah. Oh, good, Judy. That's great. Yeah. He sounded like a nice guy from the message already. So I'm looking forward to it.
Maroon t-shirt.
Well, apparently I'm getting a maroon t-shirt. If he has one of those, we'll be getting one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's awesome.
I think we're actually going out with him. There's 6 caches in that area, including some earth caches and some other stuff. And like he even has it on his website that like he knows it's geocaching, right? He takes people out just for geocaching. He takes people out for other things too, but he knows where everything is. So, But like for this trip, this one's complicated because our primary goal is those old caches. Yeah. Our secondary goal is counties, and then we're going to jump over east across the state line and get 2 webcams as we're doing it. Right. And we've already thrown in a few 5.5s along with it too. So that fills up days quickly. Oh, but we also have to have that, you know, we've cached together for a long time, so we kind of know each other well too. But true. You have to be willing to go like if me and you are going on a caching trip, you may go, you know what, I've had enough for the day. Well, we got to be okay with that, right? Like, you know
ahead of time though.
We got to slow down a minute. Just hold on a minute. You know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We've been up since 4 o'clock the previous day, and but when you're doing a trip, so yours, when you got tired, you went to bed because you're the only one in that trip. With ours, you don't want to be the wet blanket of the party, but at the same time, you don't want to push somebody so hard that you're not enjoying your trip. Because even if we set all these goals, and we set primary goals, secondary goals, and on down the list, like this is our wish, you know, we'd have to be insane to be able to get all these things. Exactly. But at the same time, if we don't, it doesn't matter. That doesn't, you know, that's just for fun. But never packing it so much that you can't have those, like you saw Chris Northwest up there. You can't have those spontaneous little, oh, this is great. I didn't even know this was part of the trip. And now we get to have that fun thing. And like, you know, when we were doing one trip, it was a crazy packed. And we met Zach up there. So did Zach. And we knew we were going to meet him and get to see him in person or whatever. But we get there and we are exhausted. We're gross. And we've been traveling for days and we have not had a real shower. And his fiance at the time, you know, they're married now, but fiance at the time just didn't miss a beat. Super nice. She's like, come on in. Yeah. She goes, she wasn't being, you know, she was being super nice. She goes, my shower's back that way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And they had a whole spread of food and they're like, why don't y'all sit down? We got a couple beers. Let's sit down. And you know, we could have easily gone, no, we just need to go. But at the same time, we would have missed out on, you know, fellowship with a cashier that we don't ever get to see in person and his, you know, his wife now and at their home. And we got to relax. We got to get cleaned up and we did the cache. It was at his house. That's why we were going by there. So close to there, right? We got out of the way to do that. Yeah. And we found out about some more caches in the area that we went to go do. So I don't think even with like we pack ours insanely, but have that you don't want to miss out on the fun of geocaching, right? Exactly. Like, yes, you want to get your goals. And I know you can, unicorn farts. That's it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's a great one. You want to get your goals and you want to be successful because, you know, we wait all year to do this trip with each other. But at the same time, like you don't want to push yourself so hard that it feels like work. And now we push ourselves hard, but I don't want to be miserable. Right. And I don't want to miss getting to sit down with Zach for dinner, you know, because when am I ever going to do that again? I don't want to miss some of these things that you find. We found some amazing things just by accident that we didn't even know about, even as geocachers. We're mapping all this stuff out, right? Right. and whether it's geocaching related or not. So yeah, pack it all, but be willing to go. I'm going to call an audible if something awesome comes up, because many of us, like we wait a whole year to do this. I don't get to travel every weekend, right? You got to save up money and you got to travel and everything else. And you don't want to miss those once in a lifetime experiences that may come out when you're out there on the trip.
Yeah. That it's so important to have two things. One is to have a plan, but not be so rigid that you can't flex, because the flexing gives you, for example, like for me, I had a plan. I didn't plan on going to Brad's TARDIS, but I was able to flex and add his cache, which was incredible. And that's exactly like you said. If I took the stance of, no, it's not on my list, I'm not doing it. I got a plan. I'm going to stick to my plan. I'm not going to make any changes. You're going to potentially miss out on things. As far as, for geocaching purposes, like you said, that you might get somewhere for, the example is that cache. I didn't know about it, but when I got to the event, Brad mentioned, goes, hey, you might want to, and so, for example, like you said, there may be other caches in the area that you're like, oh, it wasn't on our plan. Can we add it? Let's see. Can we, might be an opportunity. So,
and we always add something.
Sure. Which is perfect.
But again, add something. But as many people have obviously been on trips before, know when enough is enough, because there's always one more cache out there. There's always like, oh, but we're only 8 miles from the next county.
Yeah, let's do another one.
There's always something else out there. So you do have to, walk that line between not enough and too much, but planning helps that a lot, right? Because even if you get your minimum on your plan, you're like, man, that was a successful trip. Or you wouldn't have planned it in the first place, right? You wouldn't have gone, right, I'm going to go all this way for that one. And, but that travel, like for you, your travel was all up to you, right? You planned everything, your own car. For us, and this one, we've done every version of it. I think we've flown, like when we went down to years ago, we were all out in Colorado, and it's Colorado, Wyoming.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a Utah person with us on that one, but we all flew down to Florida, where I live now, and flew, and then we had a lot of other people join us from other places, but they flew down here, rented a U-Haul truck, and for kayaks. You don't normally rent a U-Haul truck to go geocaching. You got to do what you got to do, right?
You got to do what you got to do. Exactly.
I did learn that renting a car is often worth it if you're going to sleep in that car.
Yes.
And that $11 insurance is definitely worth it, because we drive those things like till the wheels fall off, and we're not intentionally damaging anything, obviously, but they're
all dusty and dirty and
days straight. They get dirty and everything else.
That's right.
And so like on this one, we're coordinate. There's only 3 of us on this trip, so we've had more complicated ones with big groups. Those get very complicated.
Yeah,
but
they get
2 people flying from Colorado to Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to drive up to there, because I've got more time off than they do, because it's summertime, teacher stuff, right? So I'm going to weave a little bit on my way up to meet them, and weave a little bit on the way back down.
Right.
County time, right? But
exactly.
So then we're going to meet there at the airport and get a rental car and I'll just, book my car into the airport for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
But it gets really complicated with all that travel and meeting people and rentals and all that other stuff. And if you're not this is not a cash tour, when this is a big multiple spreadsheets trip.
Yes.
But it's not one of those ones you do like you mentioned your spreadsheet. So we're sharing a spreadsheet that we're constantly adding things to, and then we meet and talk about what we're doing, virtually meet or whatever now.
Talk
about what you're doing. But it seems like a lot of work ahead of time, but it makes for a much more successful trip on the back end.
Absolutely. All right. Hold that thought for a second. We'll come right back to that. I do want to give, I'm going to give part of the clue for key 24.
Okay.
It'll be up on the Facebook page, the Cache Fest Memphis Facebook page, which I've got a copy of. I will put out so people can see. But let me play. I'm going to play a portion of it. It's like 2 minutes long, so I want to play a portion of it. Give you a taste of it. And so let me share my screen and and then I just hit don't share my screen. So let me hit share my screen again. Not a problem. So let me share it. I need to share the tabs audio too, because this is really important. So let me add it to the stream, and here we go.
Got it.
Yep.
Yep.
So
I already solved it.
But you're good already. So there you go. That's the that's the beginnings of the clue for
That's part of the clue, the secret code clue, whatever.
Yes, for key 24. So
and that'll
get out
be on
your
the Facebook page, right? For those trying to solve that.
Yep. It'll be out on the webpage, and hopefully you got out your Little Orphan Annie code ring, and you're able to figure out that what it said was
drink Ovaltine.
To drink more Ovaltine. So
Oh no,
Jesse
just spilled the beans.
If we did one that actually did say drink more Ovaltine, people would be so mad.
That would be funny. Be
sure, like
hide
it somewhere, and that's like the false clue. Like you went the wrong direction, and that's what it spells out.
Yeah.
Drink more Ovaltine.
Drink more Ovaltine. And Tom thinks it's Pizza Ninja's ordering a pizza. That's possible too. So
it could be, right?
Could be.
No, somebody mentioned in the chat room. Or well, go ahead.
Is it Texas, Gary? Well, I can't. Number one, I can't tell you that. Number two is there won't be there. We don't have 52 keys, so we're not going to have or 50 keys. We're not going to put them in every every state or in plus all the provinces of Canada. So we don't have. If you add all that up, somebody could do the math for me, but you get the idea. That
it'd be cool if we could put one everywhere. Maybe one day we will do that.
It would be cool, but we can't. So if there was a key placed, say for example, there was a key placed in Oklahoma. Actually, there was two places that were found. That covered Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, whatever touches Oklahoma. That was your clue to go find that one, because they're not
necessarily there. Everybody, that doesn't mean there's not going to be one in those states.
But
we try to get one within reach of every within one state of every state.
We're really trying to make sure that we get a good enough average or good enough coverage across the country. There was one in Arizona, so that kind of covered California and New Mexico, and so you get the idea. So all right, back to
somebody brought something up in the chat room actually about our trip. He said Captain John, who I'm going to be using, he actually has shirts that they have for the trip, which obviously the maroon where he takes you out on the boat, they have shirts for maroon. Well, I'm buying one of those. There's no doubt, right? Because that commemorates the trip. But I think that's interesting too, because like on your trip, I'm sure you bought a bunch of souvenirs and stuff, right? Because you're out or you bought some souvenirs because you're out there doing stuff. We've talked about it before, but like with this trip, one of the things we'll do, because we're planning it ahead of time, is each time we go, every year we come up with a new logo for that trip. And I don't mean anything fancy, right? We come up with a new logo, and we'll take that, and you can get them for like $5. You can get a like a letterbox stamp, inking stamp. Yeah. So we'll get one for the whole crew, and we'll have a stamp while we're out there. So we can stamp it. It's got all of our names on it, and it'll say the year and everything else. And you can only use it for that one trip, but it's like $5 or something. and we'll just have a self-inking stamp, and we'll go, and that'll be part of it. Like if we ever see that log anywhere, that we know what that's from, right?
Exactly, from that trip.
Yeah,
that's
and then
a great idea.
It's a nice little souvenir.
Yeah.
Some years we've done, and we may this year, who knows? Because this one will be a pretty epic trip with all the boats involved and everything else. Although the price for that rental boat is like very reasonable,
right?
Especially split 3 ways, you know. So we'll take that same logo and we'll make T-shirts. I've still got T-shirts from our old ones, you know, from a long time ago.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
And now sometimes those T-shirts get destroyed as we're out there cashing, but
exactly.
You know, you can get a T-shirt made, like a single one-off T-shirt, not one that you would wear for the rest of your life, but just like a souvenir T-shirt.
Yeah,
like $15 or something. You know,
yeah,
super cheap, and those enhance that trip so much when you're going as a group and everything else. You know, you probably don't make a T-shirt when you're going by yourself, but you know, because there's nobody else to match it. But you know, it's like a family reunion T-shirt. And we can look back in pictures. Any pictures we see with those, we're like, oh, that's awesome. That's that trip that we did. And those little things like that come big in these, you know, unless you're somebody that can go on these kind of trips all the time, which we're not, you know, but some people can afford to do that. But
sure,
these are, you know, very memorable trips that you get to go on. And go that little bit of extra, you know, like yours, you got to pick everything you want to do. So mine is a group, so we're trying to make it good for everybody. And those little extra tips help when you're up late at night doing these things and trying to get everybody's goals and stuff like that. Is you got some cool memorabilia after the trip or even during the trip and fun stuff to do along the way. And one of the other things I would say, and I don't know how much you showed some of your pictures, but like we will take a bunch of pictures along the way.
Yeah, we did.
And Marisol will always bring his drone so we can get some good drone footage while we're going too.
That's awesome.
Good about like he'll put a video together and put it up on YouTube so we can share it. But we can always go back and see that cool. Nobody else cares about your trips, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see your family vacation photos. Nobody cares.
Right. No.
But in terms of geocaching, maybe there's something they want to see, right? But other than that, it's cool to be able to have those. I mean, that trip should be, if you're doing it right, one, to accomplish geocaching goals, but two, you're building a lot of memories with that trip. And taking those a little bit extra time to plan, like, hey, let's take some photos. Let's do this. And let's really mark this trip with something. And you don't have to spend much money doing that. That's one of those ones that'll make that trip live forever for you. You won't forever. I can tell you all about every trip we've ever taken.
Yeah.
You know, over the last several years, our groups can.
Yes.
And, you know, it's so much fun because you have the logs on caches, but those, you know, when you do a big group trip, when you do a big bunch of them, you're not, you may go back later and add a bunch, but that doesn't tell the whole story. You need your own stuff. And little tweaks like that, I think, if you're planning one of those trips this summer or you know, depending on what part of the world you're in, but
where you're headed,
know that little bit extra planning, and I think you'll make it so much more memorable and enjoyable.
Yeah. So I'll let you do a final thought here in a minute. Let me give my final thought, and we'll get to a wrap up of tonight. So pardon me, my final thought is sort of a reiteration of what we were talking about earlier, which was plan, because I think if you don't plan at all and you just sort of go, oh, I'm going to blow with the wind, I think you're going to miss something.
Yeah. If
you do the exact opposite, which is at 7:42, we are going to have dinner, it's like, if you're doing that kind of planning, I don't think anybody's really going to enjoy it. There might be somebody out there that might, but
some might. Yeah.
Most people are not going to enjoy. And plus it doesn't lend itself to this idea of, here's a coffee place that wasn't on the list. I had a list that I wanted to do, but I tweaked the list because I had some flexibility. I had built in a sense, flexibility. I did not know about, there was a travel bug hotel that I didn't show, but I put it out on Facebook for everybody to see. I did not look at that because something else we really didn't talk about tonight, which is really for another show, which was, you and I have done this before, which is hey, we're in this area for another reason, but while we're here, let's look at favorite points. Oh, what do you know? Look at this. So I was in Blaine, Washington. I was like, I had a plan for what I was doing there, but I said, well, what are maybe I missed something. And sure enough, I had missed this travel bug hotel. Well, I had built into the plan some leeway. And so I went to this travel bug hotel, was really cool. I filmed it and so forth. So there's a balance, but don't go one way or the other. Don't go overboard and don't not plan at all, because I think you're going to miss something. So anyway, what are some of your final thoughts tonight?
One, I agree 100% with what you just said. Two, and I've been on both sides of that, where I've over and under planned or not planned.
Yeah,
definitely.
I've been there too. Yeah.
Two, when I kind of add on to that, I consider these trips, these are something outside the norm. For me, it's an annual trip. Do the little extra things, besides playing, do the little extra things that make the trip memorable. And then, like t-shirts and stamps and fun stuff like that. Don't make it cost a lot of money if you don't want to, right? But do those fun little things that really make it a memorable trip, not just, because you're going to it's the way we cache for those trips. It's hard. We go and we go and go. But one thing we've gotten real good about doing, and I can tell you the exact spot where we've done it on every trip. It's good if you do it more than once, but we at least, because we've gone to some pretty beautiful areas, but we at least in one place in every trip, we stop and just enjoy where we're at.
Right.
Not trying to find a cache, not taking photos, anything else. Just sit there for a minute and go, just be appreciative of the fact that, like, one, our lives allow us to do something like this. Yeah. Our lives with an L and then wives with a W too. So both of those, right? Our lives and wives allow us to do something like this. Yeah. And just appreciate that, not everybody in the world gets to do this, and just enjoy the fact that you're there on a geocaching trip. And, you're going to hit it hard again in a few minutes, but just sit and stop for a minute and just be appreciative that we have this hobby that lets us do these wild, crazy adventures like this. Yeah. And don't miss out on that opportunity to just really, appreciate the moment. And I think you won't regret that. You're not going to miss one extra LPC. You'll be okay. Take the moment to enjoy it and realize that it's a good special thing. And I think that'll bring that enjoyment level up even more.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Perfect. Well, thanks, Jesse. It was a good one. So we will see everyone Thursday. Jesse, I'll be doing another deep dive. I've got something I will share for our deep dive guests that night. So I got a little beans to spill. And next Sunday night, we've got Gadget Talk. We'll be back and doing their thing. So again, thank you. And we'll see everybody on Thursday.
Yep.
There we go.
Go out and enjoy it.
Good night, everybody.
May your finds be many and your DNFs be few. May the terrain and difficulty both be less than 2. And whatever it is you're looking for, may it find its way to you. And may we all meet again.
Folks, we hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. Please email us your comment at geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The show can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, or Spotify, as well as at the Geocache Talk website. Don't forget to click that subscribe button below and ring that bell notification so that you can see and hear the show on a weekly basis. And tell your friends about the show. Get them involved with us in the chat room. And until next week, don't just talk about geocaching, go geocaching.